Two drones have hit the US Embassy in Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh. The attack caused a small fire and minor damage there. Meanwhile, the US State Department has ordered the departure of non-emergency government personnel and their family members from Jordan, Iraq, Bahrain and Qatar. Washington's embassy in Kuwait has announced it will be closed until further notice. Let's go live to Zein Basravi. He's in Doha for more on this. Zein, firstly, on the drone strikes on obviously a sensitive target in Saudi Arabia. Tell us more.
That is correct. Iran may continue to say that it is not at war with these GCC countries, but the fact of the matter is it doesn't mind putting the populations living in these countries in the firing line. That's been clear from the last several days. Today, on the fourth day of this conflict, we are hearing that the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia is telling American citizens living in Saudi Arabia to avoid the embassy until further notice due to an attack on the facility. What we understand is that, as you say, two drones were used to attack the embassy. There was a limited fire that broke out in the diplomatic compound. And what we are hearing now is that this morning there was minor material damage on the compound. The Ministry of Defense said this in a statement, and what we are hearing is that targeting of sites is continuing in parts of that country. Now, what we're also hearing is in Bahrain, the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, announced that it was carrying out another large-scale drone and missile attack. 20 drones, 3 missiles hit their intended targets, according to the IRGC. And of course, overnight here in Qatar at around 2 a.m. local time, we heard once again loud booms from what the Ministry of Defense confirmed were interceptions of 2 ballistic missiles that were headed in the direction of Qatar. The Ministry of Interior put out a statement urging the public to remain indoors and leave their residences strictly in cases of urgent necessity. It further stressed in this statement the importance of avoiding proximity to windows and exposed areas as an essential precautionary measure during this phase. So the circumstances here, according to the statements coming out of the government, remain risky. There remains a critical threat to people living in these cities in the GCC as Iran's retaliation continues.
And as a result, obviously, of that heightened threat, Zein, the US State Department, I understand now, has ordered the departure of non-emergency government personnel and their family members from Jordan, Iraq, Bahrain and Qatar.
Yes, a number of countries in the region. The U.S. government, in an abundance of caution, is suggesting that if you can leave, perhaps you should. But, you know, the question remains how? Airspace remains closed, and this is a real problem. However, what we're hearing is in the UAE, some flights began resuming yesterday, on Monday. Etihad Airways, Fly Dubai, Emirates Airlines began resuming a handful of flights to clear that huge backlog. Dubai and Doha are some of the largest hubs for travel in the region. The closure of the airports, the closure of airspace has created a knock-on effect to international air travel. So it seems to be addressing that. It seems to be addressing the desire for those residents of the UAE that want to leave to be able to do so from these airports. But again, limited flights have reopened there. Here in Qatar, Qatar Airways flight operations remain temporarily suspended, according to a statement, the latest statement from Qatar Airways, and that is because Qatari airspace remains closed. Several airports have been disrupted in the region. Over 3,000 flights in the first 24 hours of the attack on Iran by Israel and the United States and their retaliation. 3,400 flights were canceled. So major disruptions to air travel. So even if people do want to get out, it's going to be far more complicated than perhaps just booking a flight as long as the airspace remains closed.
Of course, and that is the deeply frustrating prospect of many people stranded or stuck in this part of the world while all of this is happening. Zein, many thanks for that. Zein Basravi.